Asterisk, asterisk. When judgment becomes jet fuel, turning your past into your greatest power. Asterisk, asterisk. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. And I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft and loving every second of it. Today, I had the profound honor of sitting down with Attilda Forbes, a woman whose journey from judgment to joy is nothing short of transformative. Attilda is a force, a living testament to the idea that your history doesn't have to be your prison, it can be your power. She's making the world a better place by showing Black professionals and entrepreneurs that radical self belief, self respect, and joy aren't just nice ideas. They're non negotiable tools for building a life that honors who you really are. She's proof that being judged for your past doesn't disqualify you, it can equip you. And she's inspiring thousands to stop shrinking, stop apologizing, and start living from a place of deep, unapologetic self love. So let's dive in. Here's what I want you to sit with for a moment. How many of you are still carrying shame about something you did years ago? How many of you are still letting other people's opinions about your past dictate how you show up today? How many of you believe deep down that because you made a mistake, because you were messy, because you didn't have it all together, you don't deserve joy now? Let me tell you something Attilda Forbes made crystal clear in our conversation. Your past does not disqualify you, it can become your power. That's not a motivational poster, that's a decision. A daily, deliberate, sometimes uncomfortable decision to stop letting judgment, whether it's from others or from yourself, run your life. Atilda shared with me that being judged for past decisions is real, especially for Black professionals and entrepreneurs. The world loves to remind us of our mistakes. The world loves to question our credibility, our worthiness, our right to take up space. But here's the shift: those experiences, the ones that made you feel small, the ones that made you question yourself, they can be transformed into clarity, confidence, and joy. When you decide that your story will not be a source of shame, but a source of wisdom and authority. Let me say that again. Your story will not be a source of shame, but a source of wisdom and authority. That's the first thing I want you to take from this conversation. Your past does not disqualify you, it equips you. Now, let's talk about what it actually takes to live that out. Because it's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to do it. Atilda reminded me that radical self belief and self respect are non negotiable success tools, not cute slogans. Believing in yourself and loving yourself respectfully means setting standards for how you speak to yourself, how you allow others to treat you, and how you show up in your work and relationships without apologizing for protecting your peace, your vision, and your dignity. This is where the soft girl era really begins. It's not about being soft in a way that makes you weak. It's about being soft in a way that protects your power. It's about saying no without guilt. It's about setting boundaries without apology. It's about resting without explanation. And it's about refusing to let anyone, including yourself, treat you like your past mistakes mean you don't deserve respect today. Let me tell you about Tarana Burke. She's a Black woman activist from the Bronx who founded the Me Too movement long before it became a global hashtag. She is a survivor of sexual violence who spent years being doubted, dismissed, and judged, particularly when talking about sexual abuse in Black communities and among working class women. Tirana was often ignored or minimized by mainstream media and organizations, which favored more polished or famous voices. Talking publicly about sexual violence, especially as a Black woman, came with stigma, victim blaming, and judgment. People questioned her motives and her past. For years, her grassroots work with Black girls and women received little funding or recognition, which could have easily fueled self doubt. But Tarana refused to internalize the judgment. She focused on healing work in her community. She created safe spaces where survivors, especially Black girls, could share Me Too and feel less alone. She grounded her work in radical empathy and self respect, insisting that survivors deserve to be believed and treated with dignity, regardless of their background or past. Her activism began in the 1990s and 2000s, working with Black and Brown girls in Alabama who shared stories of sexual abuse with her. One encounter with a young girl's disclosure left her feeling she had failed to respond adequately. That moment became a turning point. She later said she wished she had simply said, "Me too." That phrase became the seed of the movement. And when Me Too went viral globally in 2017, she assertively reclaimed her narrative. She made it clear that Me Too was a movement for healing, not just a trending hashtag. Tarana became one of Time's Silence Breakers Person of the Year in 2017. Millions of people worldwide use Me Too to name their experiences, turning private shame into public solidarity, and for many, a reclaiming of joy and self worth. She now leads a global organization focused on survivor centered healing, demonstrating that your past, no matter how painful, can become the foundation of your purpose. Tarana's story is a reminder that you are allowed to release judgment and choose joy deliberately and repeatedly. That's the third thing Attilda wants you to know. Joy is not something you earn after suffering enough, it is a practice. You can be judged, misunderstood, or underestimated and still choose to build a life, business, or career anchored in joy, softness, and self respect. Let me tell you about Michaela Cole. She's a Black British Ghanaian writer, actor, and producer who transformed her experiences, including sexual assault and industry exploitation, into the award winning series I May Destroy You. After being sexually assaulted, she dealt with self blame, shame, and fear of judgment when speaking about it publicly. She also rejected a major Netflix deal because they would not allow her to retain ownership of her work, a move that some in the industry saw as risky or ungrateful for a Black woman creator. There was also the danger of being typecast or pigeonholed as the trauma writer, as if her past defined the totality of her creative identity. Michaela grew up working class in London, facing racism and economic hardship. She first broke out with her semi autobiographical series Chewing Gum. Later, while working on a show, she was sexually assaulted after her drink was spiked, a moment she later wove into I May Destroy You. That decision required facing potential judgment, but ultimately reclaimed her narrative. But Michaela chose radical self respect in business. She walked away from deals that demanded full rights to her story, insisting on maintaining ownership and creative control. She transformed personal pain into art that centers Black joy, complexity, and humanity, not just trauma, balancing heavy themes with humor, love, and friendship. She spoke openly about her experiences at the 2018 McTaggart Lecture, turning judgment and silence into public truth telling and empowerment for others in the industry. I May Destroy You received critical acclaim and multiple awards, including a BAFTA for Best Miniseries and Leading Actress. Michaela became a symbol of creative autonomy and self worth, particularly for Black women negotiating with powerful media companies. Her story has inspired countless Black creatives to trust their voice, respect their boundaries, and reject exploitative deals, even when judged for doing so. Michaela became the first Black woman to win an Emmy for Outstanding Writing for a Limited Series in 2021. She used her platforms to advocate for boundaries, ownership, and dignity for marginalized creators. She modeled that you can face intense scrutiny for your decisions and still stand firm in self belief and self love, turning your experiences into art and joy, not just pain. And then there's Lovey Ajayi Jones. She's a Nigerian American author, speaker, and digital strategist known for her bold voice and cultural commentary. For years, she was judged as too loud, too opinionated, too much. Labels often placed on Black women in professional and public spaces. Early in her career, people criticized her for speaking too bluntly about race, culture, and justice, questioning her professionalism. As a Black woman in digital media, she faced online harassment and judgment, including attacks on her character and style. She wrestled with imposter syndrome, wondering if she should shrink herself to be more acceptable. Lovey started blogging while working a traditional job, often questioning whether her voice mattered or would be taken seriously. As her cultural commentary gained traction, so did criticism. Instead of retreating, she recommitted to her values: honesty, humor, and service to her community. But Lovey chose to lean into her voice, not away from it, deciding that self betrayal was too high a price to pay for external approval. She built her brand on truth telling with humor and joy, blending cultural critique with laughter and community, especially for Black women. She wrote books like I'm Judging You and Professional Troublemaker, turning the idea of being judged into a badge of honor grounded in self respect. Her TED Talk, Get Comfortable with Being Uncomfortable, has millions of views and encourages people to speak up even when judged. She became a New York Times best-selling author, advisor, and sought-after speaker. Her work in community, including the Love Nation platform, centered joy, courage, and authenticity for Black women and allies. Lovey's story directly reflects turning others' judgments, too loud, too much, into joyful, self respecting leadership and a thriving career. She encourages Black professionals and entrepreneurs to stop shrinking to fit other people's comfort and instead ground their decisions in self belief and self respect. She helped normalize Black women being assertive, joyful, and unapologetically themselves in public spaces. She created frameworks like Do It Afraid that encourage people to act despite fear and judgment. So here's what I need you to do this week. I need you to audit your inner voice for judgment and replace it with respect. Write down 3 statements you say to yourself that come from other people's judgment of your past. Things like, I messed up, so I don't deserve, or I'm not qualified because of what I did. Then rewrite each one into a respectful, self loving truth. For example, my past taught me it does not disqualify me. Say those new statements out loud every day for 7 days. Next, set one boundary that protects your joy. Identify one situation where you keep tolerating disrespect or shame because of your past: a conversation, a relationship, a work dynamic. Decide on one clear boundary, what you will no longer accept or what you need instead, and communicate it this week. Finally, take one joyful action that your old self wouldn't allow. Do one thing that the judged, ashamed version of you would have felt unworthy of, whether it's applying for a new role, launching a small offer, or simply scheduling a rest or joy activity. The point is to act from self belief, not from your history. These are small but non negotiable steps that move you from theory into practice. I want you to feel seen, not shamed. I want you to recognize that being judged for past decisions is common, especially for Black professionals and entrepreneurs, and that there is nothing broken about you because of it. I want you to feel empowered and activated, motivated to stop waiting for external validation and to start treating yourself with respect right now in how you talk to yourself and what you tolerate. I want you to feel joyful and hopeful, not in a fluffy, unrealistic way, but with a clear sense that joy is available even after mistakes, trauma, or public judgment. And I want you to feel challenged but loved, understanding that continuing to live under other people's opinions is a choice you no longer have to make. Attilda Forbes reminded me that you are allowed to release judgment and choose joy deliberately and repeatedly. You are allowed to believe in yourself radically and love yourself respectfully. You are allowed to set standards for how you speak to yourself, how you allow others to treat you, and how you show up in your work and relationships without apologizing for protecting your peace, your vision, and your dignity. Your past does not disqualify you, it can become your power. And when you decide that your story will not be a source of shame, but a source of wisdom and authority, you become an inspiration for others. So here's my challenge to you: stop waiting for permission to be whole. Stop waiting for the world to stop judging you before you start loving yourself. Stop waiting for the right time to choose joy. The right time is now. The right person is you. And the right choice is to believe fiercely and unapologetically that you deserve every bit of the peace, the power, and the softness you've been denying yourself. This is not about forgetting your past. It's about refusing to let your past forget your power. It's about looking at every mistake, every misstep, every moment of judgment and saying that taught me, that shaped me. But that does not own me. You are not your worst decision. You are not the sum of other people's opinions. You are not required to shrink, to hide, or to apologize for taking up space in a world that needs exactly what you have to offer. So go. Write those three truths. Set that one boundary. Take that one joyful action. And watch how your life begins to shift when you stop living from your history and start living from your power. Because the world doesn't need another version of you trying to prove you're worthy. The world needs the version of you who already knows.